Hello, and welcome to Pastor's Perspective. I'm your host, Brian Perez. It is Friday, the 29th of August, and we are here for the final time this month. So if you don't call in today with your questions, you're going to have to wait until next month to get an answer.
September.
Yes.
You have to wait till September.
Till September, which is so far away, it seems.
Yes.
But anyway, here we are at 888-564-6173. Live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram as well. Give us a call. The number's right there on the bottom of your screen. 888-564-6173 for those of you who don't have a screen because you're listening on the radio. But we'd love to hear from you. Brian and Cheryl Broderson from Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa are here. How you guys doing?
We are from Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, in that we go there, but we're now, Brian and Cheryl, from Echoes of Mercy Ministries.
Oh, is it official?
It is official.
It is official.
Mm-hmm. This is the name of our new ministry.
Yeah, so we've been unmoored from Calvary, even though we still go.
Yes.
And I teach Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian teaches Sunday nights, which we invite everybody to come to the Back to the Basics through the Bible study on Sunday nights at 6:30, which I love. And he's in Acts slowly.
Yep, Acts 16.
Brian and I were talking about the difference between us. And Brian is slow and steady, but he has more stamina than I do. I have these bursts of energy where I get a whole lot of things done, and then I'm absolutely exhausted. Like, I'm done. Don't move me. Don't ask me to move. You know, usually my eyes are closed anyway, so you can't move me. But
The tortoise and the hare.
yeah, the tortoise and the hare. That's always been us.
Yes. And we did 15,000 steps together today.
Together, like 7,500 each? Or?
Along with Barnabas.
Oh.
No, 15,000 each.
Nice.
I think Barnabas did more than we did.
Well, he's got 4 legs,
That's
so
true.
I would imagine that he did do more.
That would be double ours, right?
Yeah, he did 30,000.
So, yeah, echoesofmercy.com. Check out this website. This is nice, guys.
Yeah, this is actually just a landing page.
Okay.
And we're in the process of
This is
developing
just
a
the
website.
landing page? I mean, this is like...
Well, our son
nice.
and our daughter-in-law are designing it. And
Okay.
our daughter-in-law, Julie Bell, is a graphic designer, very,
Okay.
very talented, and a doll. I love my in-laws. And then our son is just so gifted, isn't he, Brian?
Yes, he
With,
is great. Yeah.
We used to tell him that he was a
Look at
genius
that.
when he was young. And he
Pastor's
is.
perspective is up there.
There it is.
Look at that.
And things that matter, that short-lived...
There wasn't enough stamina to
I
continue
think
that
the matter
podcast.
was like 3 years, but we kind
What about mine? I had
COVID ruined things.
I had Gracious Living.
of gracious living. Yeah.
Yes, and that's
Yeah, there's always the
that's not even up
possibility
there.
of a reboot of things that matter, but I just have to get a little more motivation,
Yeah. But we have such vision for where we want this to go. Like Brian and I are going to start doing like a home Bible study, but it's going to be online. And we're going to go from Genesis all the way through Revelation. We're going to invite people to come, and we're just
Are we
going to
gonna do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We're going to.
Well, we've been talking about it, but
Yeah. And we're going to do daily. Remember, we even said we're going to do it in our living room with the backdrop being that wallpaper that I put up in one of my spurts of energy. So I had like a spurt of energy while Brian was gone. So a friend of mine helped me, painted my family room, painted all these bookshelves. And I was going to paint all these other rooms, but once I finished the family room and I did some furniture, I was...
just ran out of steam.
Well, I just couldn't get that furniture upstairs. It was too heavy for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any help. So he came home and I said, I've got a honey-do list for you.
Yep. I've been moving furniture all
Yes,
week.
you have. Yes, but you had help.
I did.
I helped him. It wasn't like you did it by yourself. Well, you did do the bed frame by yourself, and that was heavy.
Yes, I did.
It was really heavy.
Yes, I am strong.
Yes. Because you eat spinach.
So you can keep up with Brian and Cheryl's Echoes of Mercy Ministry. There's a newsletter sign up on their website, so you can type in your email address.
And we are going to write a newsletter.
Yes, we are. Well, I have been gone, so that's...
Yeah, but we have all sorts of vision. Like, for instance, I've just been in Hebrews chapter 11, and I thought, how fun to do an online by faith Bible study. And that's one of the things I'm going to be writing is an online Bible study going through Hebrews chapter 11 for men, for women. It's just a way to go slowly through Hebrews chapter 11 and to really sink your teeth down deep into what faith is, how to have faith, how to strengthen yours. And we're going to be looking at Hebrews chapter 11 that way, just taking it just slowly but surely.
Yep. Very nice. So echoesofmercy.com. Echoes, plural. Echoesofmercy.com.
Well, that comes from a song. It was by Fanny Crosby, right?
Yep.
Echoes of Mercy, Whispers of Love.
Yes.
Which is such a good song.
Great is thy faithfulness.
Great is thy faithfulness.
Yep. Which is a great, kind of
morning
a theme.
by morning, new mercies I see. Mm-hmm. I was writing that in my devotions today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So if you've got a question for Brian and Cheryl, call them up at 888-564-6173. Going to be in the studio till 4 o'clock.
Are you willing to answer the phone if they call us?
Me?
Yeah.
I can't. I got to be in here.
Well, you can answer the phone right now.
I have to answer it from this side. Yes,
Perfect.
yes. But
And
I'm
then
not
you can
I'm not the first person they talk to when they call
True.
in.
You're the second.
I'm the second one. Yes.
And if anybody wants to comment on Brian's shirt, which is quite
Bright. But he
Bright.
said it's old merch.
No, it's new merch. No,
it's
I
new
didn't say
merch.
old.
Oh yeah.
Did I say old?
No, when I saw
we were talking about something else.
yeah.
So
This
it's
is new.
merch, but it's not available to all, or it is?
Correct. It is. It's like
It's,
a staff only.
staff only, yeah.
Only.
Yes.
When I saw 11:10 a.m., I knew that that's new merch.
Right.
There.
Okay, can I ask who else bought that same shirt?
I didn't buy it. It was provided to me.
Oh, who else?
But there's a few of us. There's like half a
uniform.
dozen of us here that
That's
have.
kind of
Uniform.
It's like a uniform. Yeah. I
So
have
is-
two different shirts. I have
is
this
blue
one and
the
a
new color?
light blue shirt also.
Oh, is
So-
blue the color?
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is kind of a gray blue, isn't it? Where we are.
Yes. Now that you mention it.
Yeah. Look around and see. The sky is blue.
Yes. So we'll get to your calls in a moment, but first here's some questions, at least one that was sent in online through the Pastor's Perspective Facebook. Melly-Ann from Redlands, who called in yesterday, and this time she wrote in. She says, the old saying, never put your hope in people. They will let you down. Put your hope in God. But if the individual is a Christian, supposedly, can you still put your hope in them? Or will they let you down as well? My experience was they let me down. Even as a Christ follower, what happens now? How do they fix that?
Well, here it is. I look at people like David. I think David is, he's God's man, a man after God's own heart. But I think he let quite a few people down. Wouldn't you say that? Yeah. Peter, who was a disciple of Jesus, Paul had to rebuke him.
Yep. He let some folks down there in Antioch.
That's right. So I think what we're saying when do not put your hope in people, it's, faith is really an investment. It's an investment in God. And God is saying, trust me, invest in me. And don't put all your, hope in people like, oh, if this person will give me everything I need. It's interesting being Chuck Smith's daughter. A lot of people thought that I was, what do I want to say, more divine than I am. Than I am. I'm so divine. But they thought that I could get them someplace. And I became a rung on their ladder because, if I can be friends with Cheryl, then I can have this and I can have that. And they put hope in me when I am so human, it's crazy. Or they'll put me on a pedestal and they'll see my dad, for instance. People would put my dad on a pedestal all the time until they watched him do sports. And he could be, my dad was not mean unless he played baseball or volleyball or tennis or, when I was a little girl, I was about, I think 8 or 9, Calvary Chapel had a baseball team. And we went to, the competitions, where teams play against teams. It was at the Orange County, near the Orange County Fairgrounds. And, our team was playing baseball, Calvary Chapel, against another church. And my dad got mad at the umpire's call and started yelling at him. Now, my dad never used a bad word in his life, but he was saying, are you blind? Can't you see?
Whoa.
Don't you know what you're doing? And the guy turned around and he said, you be quiet. My dad said, make me. And the next thing I knew, we were kicked out of the ball game. And I came home and my mom's like, what are you guys doing home? And I'm always crying. Dad got us kicked out of the ballpark. I'd never been kicked out of anything before that day. And my dad got us kicked out. And I still think to this day, that's so funny because every human has faults. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we mean when we say do not put your hope, because we're all faulted. At some point, we will fail. And we will fail because there's traffic. We won't get there in time. Because we're subject to the elements of this world. We're subject to sickness. We're subject to weakness. We're subject to fatigue. We're subject to neglect. We're subject to it all. Nobody is perfect but Jesus. And we can't see everything. We can't be as loyal as Jesus. We can't be as committed as Jesus. We can't do what Jesus does. And so nobody's Jesus. There's only one Jesus. There's only one person who is 100% committed to you. There's only one person that has died for you and died for your sins. There's only one person who loves you unconditionally and will love you forever and ever deeply. Only Jesus. What's that song? Only Jesus? Oh, that's Only Jesus Christ. We sing that at VBS. But only Jesus.
Yeah. Only Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously we can
have friendships.
To some degree we can, expect things from each other and count on each other. I mean, we as a husband and wife, we have certain expectations for each other.
But we don't always meet those, do we?
Yeah, but we meet some.
We do meet some.
Yeah, but
there's not always dinner on the table.
At the end of the day, if you, as my wife, are looking for all your fulfillment,
exactly,
and all of that from me, you're going to be, as you have been,
sorely disappointed. Yeah.
But you're trusting in Jesus. But I think the part of the question that was like, what do you do when the person has failed you? I think forgive them is the answer to what
because they're human.
Because it almost sounds like okay, now I gotta extract something from them.
Well, I think really you're thinking too highly of yourself too. I mean, haven't you ever disappointed anyone? Yeah. I know personally I have. I didn't mean to. I've disappointed people without even knowing I disappointed them. Like I didn't initiate a conversation. I didn't smile. I remember this one time, this woman came up to me. She's a pastor's wife, and she said, "Are you angry with me? Are you angry with me?" And I said, "No." And she just burst into tears. And I said, "What did I do?" And she said, "I put my hand on top of yours and you moved your hand." I'm like, "I did? I didn't mean to. I didn't mean anything."
She was like, "I do that to Brian all the time."
No. But, it's that idea of like, I'm not that conscious of what I'm doing. And to think that I never disappoint people. Sometimes I have a car that radically pulls in front of me, and you're like, how dare they pull in front of me? And the Lord speaks to my heart like, you've never done that to anybody? And you're like, oh, yeah, I have. Like I don't know, 1,000,000 times, but still. There's this scripture in Ecclesiastes that says, when you hear someone talk against you, don't take it so seriously, because many times you have talked against others. Mm-hmm. We've all sinned and come short of the glory of God. We're not perfect. And so I think sometimes our expectations for others are too high. For instance, I like to say that there are no Mr. Darcys. I know this is going to come as a shock to those who have read Pride and Prejudice. But
to those who haven't, which are most people, it's going to be like, who is Mr. Darcy?
No, that's what I was wondering. I think most people have seen the movie.
I've never seen the movie. Shh.
Well, okay, most women have seen the movie. But, Mr. Darcy is this English, man who's fabulously wealthy, and he's prideful, but he humbles himself because he falls so deeply in love with Elizabeth. And the things he says to her are so romantic that as a woman, you just kind of hold your breath and you're like, Brian, I'm going to give you a script and I need you to say that. And Brian will say it, but he'll read it and he'll be like, no, say it like Mr. Darcy. What?
Say it like you mean it.
Yeah, say it like you mean it. But you know what I mean? You'll be so disappointed, but you are disappointing. Mm-hmm. You yourself are disappointing. We all have disappointed. Mm-hmm. And so I think, one, you need to realize your own culpability in hurting others, and that you've been a disappointment. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we said in Orange County, people look at churches and they say, what can this church do for me? And growing up, we didn't ask that question. We didn't say, well, what can the church do for me? We used to say, what can I do for the church? Where's the need in this church? Where can I, how can I pray for the pastor? How can I support the ministries here? How can I be a blessing in this place that the Lord has called me?
Yeah.
And that, I think, instead of saying, instead of concentrating how you've been disappointed, say, how can I make sure that, how can I not disappoint others? What can I do in my life so that I can be a blessing to others? As Jesus said, one of my favorite scriptures, Matthew 7:12, which is, do unto others what you want them to do for you. Mm-hmm. Do that. And, Jesus said, give, not requiring anything back. That's the Calvary love.
Melly-Ann, thank you so much for sending in your question on Facebook. And come to think of it, I believe I have seen Pride and Prejudice. I just didn't know the name of the character. It was just like, I've seen the movie, but I don't know the woman's name. I don't know the guy's
Elizabeth.
name. Elizabeth. Okay.
And Mr. Darcy.
And Mr. Darcy, yes. Does she become Mrs. Darcy, or would that be a
not
spoiler?
Almost.
Okay.
He definitely asks her to marry him. But, and in one of them, we do see the wedding. So, yes. Yes, we do. I don't know if the wedding's in the book. I can't remember, but we definitely know it takes place.
Okay.
Yes.
Shannon in Corona watching us on YouTube. Welcome to Pastor's Perspective. Thanks for calling 888-564-6173.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon and happy Friday, everybody. I was calling because, long story short, because I know, we're on the radio. I have my husband and I, we've been married for 8 years. Gave birth to our newborn last October, 10-10, like John 10-10.
Ooh, I like it.
And the challenge we're having is spiritual intimacy. My hormones are a little bit different. I'm nursing, breastfeeding, and I just don't have the same hunger and desire for my husband. These are my husband's words. In our relationship, my priorities aren't where he wants my priorities. My priorities aren't where he thinks they should be.
Right.
And I just am being pretty honest where, my shift, this is my firstborn. So my priorities are any need my daughter needs. That's where I'm at. And, we do date nights, but he's disappointed with my lack of desire for him in this season. And I'm telling him it's really hormonal. So my question is, am I not living up to my godly responsibilities, or are my priorities out of shift?
No, you're hormonal. It's your body's telling you you're a mom. You're a mom, and all your mommy genes that were given to you by God are going towards the protection of that baby. There will be a time that you wean that child, and all of a sudden you'll look at your husband with new, bright eyes, and it will change. Brian's been through this 4 times with me, and he remembers how it is. And it's a time for your husband. In 1 Peter, it tells the husbands they're to dwell with the wives according to understanding. And I think it's important that your husband understands that this is beyond you. This is a God thing. This is how God designed your body. That right now your concern is for this little dumpling that God is giving you, this precious, precious gift. And they won't be 9 months forever. They'll be, like you said, in October, this baby's going to be a year. And then next October, this baby's going to be 2 years. And then, 3, and then 4. They grow up so fast. And this isn't that much that's required of him. And, I do believe it's important to do what I would call do benevolence, still have intimacy with your husband, but let him know that the baby's needs, it's just how you were created, are right there. And, someday when the baby is more independent, it won't be like this. But this is how it is right now. And together, this baby is both your priority. And, I think you need to pray that this baby becomes a priority to him too, and not just, not just how his needs are met, but his needs are being met. And so right now, the how is not like how it was, but it's still very good. Tim Keller has a book on marriage that I highly, highly recommend. He wrote it with his wife, Kathy Keller. It's called The Meaning of Marriage. And you might even want to, sit down and read it together with your husband or have him read it and you read it separately, because he really talks about how we have the wrong idea about intimacy in marriage, that we come to it sometimes from the cultural ideal that what am I getting out of it instead of what am I giving to it. And he said it's something that it's a time to renew the covenant between us as, husband and wife, the covenant that we made before God of the two becoming one. And there's no better sign of the two becoming one than that child that you have together. It's part of that covenant too. So I think the meaning of marriage would really be a blessing. But Shannon, it's your hormones. There's nothing you can do. Don't be condemned. But I would say you need, to your husband, all women are like this. There's no woman with a 9-month-old baby who's going to be a good mom who's saying hubba, hubba, hubba every time she sees her hubby, hubby, hubby. It just is unrealistic. I hope that helps you, Shannon.
Is your husband listening? Obviously, he's the one who kind of needs to hear some of this stuff too.
Yeah.
So tell him, if you do talk to him about this conversation, just say you spoke to Cheryl and Brian was in 100% agreement.
Yeah, it's a joint effort.
That's the way it is. Mm-hmm. And, there's a time where you just have to, it's a time to really be more like Jesus, where you're not selfish and you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about others, and you're thinking about your wife and her feelings and needs and things like that.
And the baby.
So, and of course the baby, yes. And like you said, I mean, it'll all in time. It'll all come back.
It will. It will all in time work itself out. It will go back. Everything will go back. And you'll probably have another baby.
I was going to say, that's
usually how it works. All right, Shannon, thanks for calling in today here on Pastor's Perspective. 888-564-6173 is our number. Here's another question that was sent in online on Facebook. Casey in Batavia, Illinois says, I was listening to the pastors yesterday discussing the topic of attending a gay wedding. I wonder, would we have the same struggles about attending a wedding of someone who has divorced for non-scriptural reasons? What do you say?
Well, you should. It should be something that you would have to really think through and wonder, is it right? Because the big concern is I'm seen to be, endorsing or condoning. But we don't tend to think about that when it is a marriage, heterosexual, obviously, but with those other kinds of issues of unjustifiable divorce.
And I think that's more of a comment that this person is making than a question he is saying or she is saying.
Yeah.
I think it's...
We should think through all of these
We
things.
should pray through everything. Yeah. I just think that we should pray instead of making these generalizations like this is the way it is for everything. Instead of making a law, because we already have 10 commandments, instead of making a new law and saying this law applies to everybody, I think it's important to pray about everything. I have a friend who really wrestled when her daughter was getting married to a woman. Wrestled. And in the end, she really felt like the Lord wanted her to go just because this was her daughter. And so she went to the wedding and she said, her ex-husband was cruel to her. She said it was just uncomfortable. Her husband was cruel. But she went in there and she just was a witness and just loved her daughter and just loved on the people there. And she said, I just tried to radiate Jesus. And she said, it was, I think, 3 to 6 months later, her daughter was diagnosed with inoperable terminal cancer. And had she not been to the wedding, she never would have been able to go up. And her daughter would never have lit her in her life again. And because she went to the wedding, her daughter lit her in her life. And her new husband, he was able to lead her daughter back to Jesus. And they were able to share the Lord with the partner at the time. And she said that would never have happened. But now she knows she's going to see her daughter in heaven. And so I think that, sometimes God will call us to go to places. He called Jonah to go to Nineveh. And Jonah's like, what, are you kidding me? Those are the most sinful, debased, awful people. What do you mean you want to save them? What do you mean? I don't want them saved. I want them condemned. And God said, you know what? I'm going to swallow you up with a whale. I'm going to send you by grace. And I think too often we forget the grace of God that wants to save everybody. God is not willing that any should perish, but that all come to eternal life.
Very good. Casey, thank you for sending in your question on Facebook. Here's another one that was sent in online. By the way, the phone line's 888-564-6173, but we're coming up to our break, so let's read this to go into the break, and then we'll go to the phones at 888-564-6173. Spencer in Riverside wrote, "Hi, pastors. I was just saying a prayer to our Heavenly Father and was just curious because I pray when I wake up and over my children before bed and as often as my spirit yearns to. And I was just wondering, because there's so many different languages in the world, it doesn't matter what language we pray to God. He understands all of us, right?"
Yes, right. Yeah.
Short answer, yes.
That is kind of fascinating, really, when you think about it, that God knows all languages. God knows everything. That's what's called omniscience. God is all-knowing. And the thing is, he knows everything simultaneously. So he knows everything, like he's not learning anything. So God knows all languages. He also is able to hear. I mean, think of the billions of people that are praying, maybe even right now. And God is able to hear all those prayers specifically, know exactly what's being said. I mean, when you start to think about this stuff, you realize, oh my gosh, God is He's so far beyond what we've even imagined. But that is God. So yeah.
My mom said something to me one time, many times, but this particular thing was just such a blessing and such a gracious word. But she was saying that Paul said, I make mention of you in my prayers. And sometimes we don't know what to pray or how to pray for somebody, and we can just mention them, in our prayers, like, Lord, Brian Perez, just work in his life, do what he needs. And then Jesus said, your Father in heaven knows what you have need of. And Oswald Chambers said that prayer doesn't need deliberation. You can just simply say that person's name. And by doing so before God, you are placing them in the throne room of God where they can receive mercy and grace to help in the time of need. And I always just love that, because sometimes we're like, oh, Lord, I don't exactly know how to pray or what they need. And sometimes you hear people and they're like, wow, you nailed it. You just got everything right. And sometimes I feel like when I'm praying, I'm like, Brian, what, and you just take them to God. Put them in the throne room. The Holy Spirit knows.
Very true. Spencer, thank you for sending in your question. I've often wondered how Sundays must sound to God, with everyone, different languages and everything, all praying and worshiping and everything. And I mean, that just must be amazing.
It must be like an orchestra.
Yes. All right, 888-564-6173 is the number to call in today. We've got Brian and Cheryl Broderson from Echoes of Mercy Ministries. Does that sound good?
Sounds really good. I like
awesome.
it.
echoesofmercy.com is where you can find out more about the ministry. 888-564-6173 is our number. Give us a call. We're going to be here for another half hour. 888-564-6173. Hey, we're back on Pastor's Perspective. Thanks so much for listening and for watching. Maybe you're doing both. You're watching. Thank you so much. 888-564-6173 is our number. We've got Brian and Cheryl Broderson from Echoes of Mercy Ministries. They happen to attend and serve at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa.
Oh, that was so good, Brian.
But Echoes of Mercy Ministries, check that out.
That's good.
David sent this in on Facebook before we go to Jean, who's calling in. But David's question, I heard a person on yesterday's program mention that they go to church, but they don't have any friends at the church. Well, that struck a chord with me, as I've been going to church for over 25 years and never had one friend, not even really an acquaintance. I've struggled with shyness my whole life. Funny thing is, I had to have kids just to have friends. Ha-ha. Do we have the doo-doo-ksh? That would have been a... Anyway. But David says, I sometimes wonder why I go to church, as it just makes me sad to see other people so easily talk and make friends with other people. What's the easiest way to start a conversation with people that are strangers? After church, there's a mass of people in the foyer, and I'm just a guy people see. Then I'm off to my car again. Is there any hope for me in my 60s now? At least I qualify for the seniors group at church now. David,
okay,
he's got jokes, man.
That would be so good to go to the seniors group. Honestly, I think it's the small groups where you really meet the friends. And we have, I ran the women's ministry here at Calvary for some 25 years. And one of the things that we realized, one of the reasons for the women's ministry, was we had these small groups because you need to make friends. And in small groups, when you're talking about the Lord together, men's ministry, the same thing, and you're sharing your lives with other people, that's where the friendships come. Mm-hmm. Another thing is, if your church has volunteer days, if they say, come help us pull weeds, mm-hmm. or come help us paint.
Yep.
When you work with other people, or come help us feed the hungry, or some of the friends I made was when we did the food distribution.
Yep.
And let me say this, which people don't believe, I'm shy. I am so shy. I am 99.9% an introvert. 0.01% that you hear is overcompensation and the Holy Spirit working through me. Because
And she's exhausted right after the program ends, probably. It's just that.
I am. Just ask Brian. I am. But it's more if I'm with a group of people. I just get exhausted. One-on-one, I'm great, but it's when it's a group. But one of the best ways that I found is food distribution. When we did the food distribution, I made so many wonderful friends.
Yeah, serving
together
that's a
is like
great
amazing.
Idea. Yeah, and I think too. He talked about being in the foyer, and then everybody's in there, and then he leaves. Maybe you need to stick around a bit longer.
Volunteer at the church.
Yeah, and also, I can't imagine. Okay, this person's shy, so we get it. It's difficult for them to approach somebody or whatever, but I can't imagine that there's people in the church that have not approached him after 25 years. You see this guy like he's always there.
But
Seems like somebody would say,
but they
hey,
might not know.
I've seen you a lot. What's your name?
Yeah.
Anyway.
They might not know. People.
Yeah. They might not
assume,
know how he feels. Yeah.
They assume. Sure. I have to say, when I was in Vista, I was so lonely. I'm the pastor's wife. I'm so lonely. I don't have any friends. The one friend that I had that I was pretty close to, she was, so busy and she got really involved in the music ministry. And I just felt so alone.
So we just had kids.
And then I remember I went to Trader Joe's and I decided to get a coffee. After that, I was just praying, Lord, give me friends. And I walked in and I saw two women from the church having coffee and a scone. And I walked over to their table and I said, you guys.
Trader Joe's?
Okay, I don't know why he does this to me. Remember the Trader Joe's down in Oceanside? And right next to it was a place that was a scone place that served coffee.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So I went to the Trader Joe's, and then after that, I went to get coffee next door, and I saw two women that were having a scone together and drinking coffee. This is a very tender story. And I went up to them, and I said, you guys, I know who you are. You go to the church. I like you both. And we've talked before, but I have to say I'm desperately lonely and I really need friends. And will you guys be my friends? And from that day forward, those were two of the most loyal friends I've ever had. And it was Billy Lloyd and Raylene Higgins. Mm-hmm. And to this day, they're still friends. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the way sometimes you have to do it. Mm-hmm. You have to just let your need be known. And it was out of sheer desperation that I did that. And they became such good friends, didn't they? Mm-hmm. And their husbands became really good friends with Brian. We used to do things together that were fun.
Yes.
Brian doesn't have trouble making friends at all. So this question does not relate to him. I don't even think he should give an opinion. He's insensitive about Trader Joe's.
Well, I just think that I'm
teasing.
I get being shy, though. I get that. I understand that. But I think, too, the proverb that says, if
he
someone
who will have friends must show himself friendly.
themselves friendly. Yeah. So, you do have to make some effort.
You do.
To break through the shyness.
You do.
And I would say pray. God knows the loneliness that you're experiencing. So, and God put us in a body for a reason. So part of it is that we wouldn't be isolated and lonely, but we would know that we're part of this family. But sometimes you have to take a step because other people don't know. We were saying, they don't know.
Yeah.
They might look at you and think, oh, he's fine. Yes.
Okay, so I have, there was this woman that was amazing. I sat next to her at church. She's with the Lord now, Beryl. But I sat next to her this one Sunday, and she just started talking to me. And then she said, what's your name? And she wrote it down. And she said, whoever I sit next to, I ask their name and I pray for them all during the week. And she said, so the next Sunday I sat next to her because she was so nice. And she was really beautiful, too. And she had a really wonderful hat. And her hat always matched her husband's tie. And she said, I want to take a picture with you. And she took a picture with me. And then I found out later that she had a wall in her house where she would put up these people's pictures that she met. And during the week, she would close her eyes and go along and then open them, touching her wall. And whoever she put her hand on, she would begin to pray for that person. And she was just the most wonderful woman. And when she died, her funeral was absolutely packed out. And when it came time to share about how Beryl had ministered to you, the line went from the front of Calvary, where where my dad was, because he officiated the funeral, all the way to the back door to get in line. And my dad said, "Why didn't you say anything?" I said, "Dad, the line was too long."
Right.
And I mean, people just were talking about how she ministered, and she had the gift of friendliness. So maybe find somebody with the gift of friendliness and sit next to them. But I would say the real answer is volunteer to serve at your church.
Yeah.
Find a place to serve. Find a small group to be a part of.
Yeah.
And reach out to others.
Yeah.
And say, "What's your name? Would you like to get coffee?"
Yeah.
I mean, that's and pray.
I mean, the serving thing is it, because automatically when you're doing something with others, it's natural to have a conversation. You're talking about whatever it is you're doing, and then one thing leads to another, and then you have a friendship.
And sometimes you're laughing too. I mean, when I kept asking people if they wanted mas burro, not realizing burro is how you say butter in Italian, and it's mantequilla in Spanish. And these people thought I was asking them if they wanted another donkey. And when people heard me, they started cracking up, and they just let me do it. And then
said,
we all had
we
a
want to
really
be
good
her
laugh.
friend because we feel sorry for her.
Yeah, they did. They did. They had mercy on me. See, that's why it's Echoes of Mercy. Okay.
David, thanks for sending in your question on Facebook. And with your introversion and your jokes, you should have been in radio, because radio is full of people who are introverts. So,
and you're going to make a great friend to somebody.
Yes, you are.
You are needed.
Jean in San Bernardino, listening on FM 107.9 K-Wave. Hi there. What's your question?
Hi, pastors. Thank you
Hi,
for
Gene.
taking my call. I have an interesting question that I've been pondering for years, and it has to do about Noah's Ark. And I know this program's called Pastor Perspective, so I'm calling to get your guys' perspective. I know the only one who knows the real answer is God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Oh, and of course, Noah, of course. So my question is, when God called Noah to bring all the animals on the ark, when it comes to dogs, did they originate from two dogs only, or did he bring like 2 poodles, 2 German shepherds, 2 Dobermans, 2 Rottweilers, 2 Great Danes, 2 Wiener dogs, 2 Schnauzers, and on and on and on and on?
2 pit bulls. That would have been really interesting.
Then you wouldn't have had any chickens.
Yes.
Okay, Gene. When you read in Genesis about God creating the various animals and even the plants, for that matter, it says that they were created after their kind. So God makes a kind, and then from the kind, there's potential for expansion, diversity, variation. Yeah. So God made 2 animals that all dogs are related. All wolves, foxes, all of those. They're all related back to the original kind. Now, somebody who knows about breeding could tell you a lot more detail about how you get the French bulldog and
the
why.
golden doodle.
And the golden doodle, yes, which apparently somebody not all that long ago, I don't remember ever seeing a golden doodle like when we were young,
Or
and
doodle.
And now every dog is a doodle of some sort. So yeah, so there's the dog kind, and then everything else came from the dog kind.
All right.
And the cat, it would be the same with the cat.
Same with the cats, yeah. Gene, thanks for your question. Now here's Emmanuel in Upland. Welcome to Pastor's Perspective, Emmanuel.
Hey, how are you guys?
Great. How you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm having this happy Friday, 4-day weekend, so yeah, we're good.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
I have a question. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I got no doubts, no problem whatsoever. I have a friend from my childhood that he used to be Catholic and then became Christian. And then he came with a doubt about the virginal birth of Jesus when he was born out of the virgin, like the prophecies mentioned in the past with Isaiah. But I don't know where he crashed or landed. that he found out that there's a story with a virgin having a son that is a kind of God. In many other cultures, like way before Jesus' story, when it was written by the time of Paul, and I didn't know what to say to him, and he turned into Judaism, and he said that part of the story was inserted into the Judaism, but it wasn't part of it. And I'm pretty sure it is, because that's a story from God. The son will be born from the virgin, and the whole story how it happened, how the angel told Joseph, "Hey, don't be afraid."
Right.
But I couldn't tell them something besides the Bible, because I'm not too much into the world history.
Yeah.
So I couldn't help him. That's it. That's my question.
Yeah. Great, Emmanuel. And yeah, so it's funny, that he's kind of gravitating toward Judaism, because when Matthew tells us about the virgin birth, he tells us that it's a fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy. So Isaiah is a Jewish prophet. So if you
Isaiah 7.
take him back to Isaiah 7, verse 14, it says there, behold, the virgin will conceive and bear a son, and you shall call his name Emmanuel. Now, even, Jewish scholars, of course.
Emmanuel called and asked the question.
Yes.
Perfect.
You've got the name. Jewish scholars, of course, don't believe in the virgin birth either. So what they would say is that, well, that virgin there just means a young woman. And they're partially right, because it can just mean a young woman, because generally speaking in Israeli culture, young women were virgins. But here's the interesting thing. 200 years before Jesus, the Hebrew scriptures were translated from the Hebrew language into the Greek language. And in the Greek language, the word parthenos, which is used for virgin, means virgin in the sense of having never had a sexual encounter. So the Jews who translated the Hebrew into Greek, they understood that the Hebrew was actually talking about a virgin birth. And then Matthew confirms it by telling us about the fact that Jesus was born of a virgin and that it was a fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy. So
now, there is also those, there's that weird cultish people that live in Israel who wear those large pants.
Yes.
Because
the Druze,
because they believe it's a virgin that will give birth, so it must be a man. So they think that a man's going to give birth because, how else can you fulfill? But the idea of it being in other, like, mythology, yes, but if you study it, you'll find it's not at all like the virgin birth in the Bible. It's totally different. But also, I want to say this. If Satan wanted to corrupt the story and he knew, the best way would be to throw in false stories and say, see, it's just one of these false stories. Mm-hmm. And so when you have truth, what you do is you surround it with a lot of lies that are kind of like the truth. So it obscures it. And C.S. Lewis talked about this. C.S. Lewis was a Bible scholar. He was an apologist, but he also called it the myth that was true, that it stood out from all the myths that you read because of the truth of it. But then again, too...
Well, he was a literary scholar who was specialized in myths.
But Jesus had to be born of a virgin because he had to have a sinless nature. Yeah. So he had to have a nature like Adam. And Paul goes to great lengths to explain why he had to be born of a virgin in Romans, because he's the second Adam. So Adam was this man that was born pure, without sin. But what he did was he was defiled by his self-will and his disobedience to God. So Jesus, having the nature of God, again, straight because of the virgin birth, not tainted with the sin of men, he has that same opportunity as Adam, only Jesus not in a garden, but among other men with all the temptations, surrounded by the fall, surrounded by the curse of men, lives a sinful life. He goes beyond what Adam could ever do. Sinless. Yeah. What did I say?
Sinful.
Oh, sinless. Yes. You better take it from here because
I better.
Yes.
So, Emmanuel, two things. Did that help? And secondly, I have a book that I wrote not that long ago, and it's a relatively small book, so you can get through it pretty quick. But I have a chapter in there on the virgin birth and why the virgin birth, like Cheryl's saying, the necessity of it. And so that might be helpful to you. And that book is called No, Like, or Equal. And we can help you. I don't know if you want to get it and maybe read it yourself or you want to give it to your friend.
Yeah, can you repeat the title of it?
Yes, No, Like, or Equal. And you could find it.
Okay.
You can order it through the backtobasics radio.com. That's my website. You can order it from there.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for your time, pastors.
Okay. Did that help you?
Yeah, no, I did indeed. Now that you're saying, like, put in the perspective, like the other person mentioned, like the Satan trying to prep like little stones, here and there so you can stumble. So yeah, now I see it,
Great.
Because now it makes more sense.
Good.
All right. Well,
All right.
I appreciate your answers.
Okay. Glad you called.
All right, brother. God bless.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking too, Cheryl, is that, a lot of these, the idea that, these were very common at the time and there was a virgin birth in all of these ancient religions,
right.
which is not true, and which most of them followed after the time of Jesus. And so
right.
they were copying what,
That's right. Again,
Christianity.
like you have those false pseudographs, that.
Pseudepigraphic.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Where people were, writing false gospels and false.
Yeah, under fake names.
Fake names.
Yeah,
But
like the Gospel of Peter was not written by Peter.
Right. But First Peter was.
Yes.
And Second Peter was.
So that
Yes.
book is called No,
Gospel
Like,
of
or
Thomas.
Equal,
Yes.
The Uniqueness of Jesus by Pastor Brian Broderson. It's available for purchase at backtobasicsradio.com.
The impact of Jesus on human history, as well as his uniqueness as seen in his birth.
Life.
So
Miracles,
words, death, and resurrection. But
Yes,
his
birth.
birth is unique. I mean,
Yes.
that's the whole thing. And the craziest thing is there are Christian scholars who are what I would call progressive theologically, who deny the virgin birth and say, well, it doesn't really matter if Jesus was born a virgin. Oh, it totally matters. It's like if Jesus wasn't born of a virgin, Jesus has no basis to claim divinity, nor does he have any basis to redeem us through a sinless life, because he's a sinner just like everybody else, because he came into the world just like we all did.
Like David said, I was conceived in sin.
Yeah.
And I was born a sinner. But Jesus was not.
Right.
It's such a great thing to consider.
Indeed. All right. So, Emmanuel, thanks for calling. Here's a Facebook question from Penny. Is the Seventh-day Adventist Church a cult?
Well, it
You can
certainly...
hear the penny drop.
Yeah. It certainly has cultic aspects to it, and some people believe it is. But here's the thing. Seventh-day Adventists, not all Seventh-day Adventists are exactly the same. So there are Seventh-day Adventists who are much less legalistic and much more evangelical in their thinking. What was the guy, Cheryl, who he wrote this book? It was very popular, like for families and stuff. He was a Seventh-day Adventist, but all evangelicals were reading this.
All I know
book
is
on
that the
families.
Seventh-day Adventists created Ruskets, and you got a free prize with the cereal, and I loved it.
And when we lived in London, remember we used to sometimes go to lunch at these places that had these smorgasbord kind of things, and they were Seventh-day Adventists.
Because they could be open on Sundays.
And we were eating the food going, this is weird food.
Yes, everything else was, because they've got some interesting dietary laws.
Yeah,
too.
the problem with Seventh-day Adventism, and, so a woman named Ellen G. White is kind of the founder of Seventh-day Adventism. So I think in its purest
Very
form,
law-based.
it is very problematic. It's basically justification by
The law.
dietary laws, by keeping the Mosaic laws. And so this would be just exactly the opposite of what the New Testament teaches. So now, years ago, a man named Walter Martin Walter Martin wrote a book called Kingdom of the Cults. And he did not include Seventh-day Adventism in the Kingdom of the Cults, but he was highly criticized for that because others came along and said, hey, and come to find out, it was like because of some relational thing that he had that he sort of got talked out of it. But I read a really fascinating story about the person who kind of pushed back against him, and they insisted that it was a cult. So it definitely has cultic tendencies and cultic beliefs. I'm not sure exactly what their belief on the nature of Jesus is. I don't think it's Jehovah's Witness or Mormon, which of course deny the divinity of Jesus. I don't think Seventh-day Adventism does that, but they definitely do not believe in salvation by grace through faith. They believe in salvation by works.
I saw that a call came up, and I guess they chickened out.
Yeah, they hung up, but that would have been a great call.
Playing ping pong with my dad.
Yes.
And I love that because, yes, my dad could put a spin on those ping pong balls. And he would go up to junior high camp and just beat all the kids and beat most of the high school kids when he did high school camp. And so it's interesting that, he wanted to play again until he won, and I love that. That was my dad. Even the most wonderful people, there's a song on Christ, the Solid Rock I Stand. And it said, I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. And that's it. Nobody can do for you what you need. Nobody can meet those deep needs but Jesus. And Jesus wants to meet those deepest needs, and Jesus can meet those deepest needs. I think about Isaiah 9:6, where he shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Prince of Peace, and, Everlasting Father, that Jesus is everything we need. And when we take that need, because we all have these gaping needs, and we put them on others, we push them down. They can't handle our neediness. None of us, are enough to handle, but we can take that neediness to Jesus. And he's like, got any more? I'm here.
Yeah. And anybody listening today that, come to Jesus. He invites you. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened down, and I will give you rest. And so that, those concerns, those cares, those burdens that you are looking around saying, well, you're supposed to help me with this, and how come you're not lifting this burden?
Yeah.
And you let me down. Just forget all of that and come to Jesus, and he won't let you down, and he won't turn you away.
Appropriate Bible verse as we head into Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
Did you do that on purpose? Of course you did. Come unto me, all you who labor. Yep. All right. We're out of time for the month, but we'll be back next month on Tuesday. No live program on Monday, but we'll be here on Tuesday ready to take your calls. So if you think of anything to ask our panel of pastors over the weekend, write it down and then call us bright and early on. Well, not bright and early, but bright and late, 3 p.m., 7 minutes before 3. That's when we open up the lines. God bless you guys. See you at church on Sunday. This has been Pastor's Perspective.